Hello, this is another video about the yin-yang symbol, Taoism, and links to Judeo-Christianity. So Jesus Christ was crucified on a cross. His left hand was nailed to one side of a horizontal beam. His right hand was nailed to another. You can see the two nails right there. And his feet were nailed to one beam that went horizontally. You know, whether or not it was two nails on that one beam or one nail through both feet. Usually it's depicted as one nail through both feet. In any case, it was on one beam. So you have the hands allowed to be separate or kept separate, depending upon how you think about it. And you have the feet collapsed together and converged. So hands and feet are very similar. So that symbolically represents a few different things. If you think about gender as an example, I am a boy or I am a girl. Anatomically, a certain amount of people are born with intersex physical traits. If you believe in God, God intended a small percentage of people to be born with intersex physical traits. This is a natural thing. The fact that it is rare does not make it unnatural. It is very rare for someone to have both red hair and blue eyes because they're both recessive genes. Both parents have to have both genes in order to even have a chance for those things to happen. You multiply the probability of one times the probability of other, makes it unlikely, but it's not unnatural. Unlikely is not unnatural. People on the edge, people on the outer bounds of things are not unnatural. And it could be anything. It could be intelligence on either side of it or anything else. Rare is not unnatural. Extremely rare is not unnatural. It's natural. So people are born that way. Not only that, we are all born, as it says, I cite Genesis 1:27 and Genesis 5:2 over and over again. In both cases, it highlights the fact that the image and likeness of God is male and female. That does not mean that the image and likeness of God is a physical hermaphrodite necessarily. What it does mean is that we breathe in and we breathe out. We eat and then we shit. We drink and then we piss. We listen and we talk. All of those things. Those are input and output. Just like any computer system on Earth, any from the simplest to the most complicated, given some input, it produces, based upon some algorithms and logic, some output. Input and output. And that is how we are all designed. That's the way our bodies work. In a similar way to the night and day, cyclic. There's a time for night, there's a time for day, and then there are two times of in between that are briefer, dawn and dusk. So if you think about night, day, dawn, and dusk, which are tend to be the most beautiful and the most colorful and the most interesting and the most striking? It's dawn and dusk. And what is the characteristic of dawn and dusk? When you have a blend of night and day. The sun is going down, the moon is coming up, the moon is leaving, the sun is coming up. It's a combination of both. You end up with some sunlight painted on a dark sky. And those are the most beautiful times of the day when we are blended. If you think about this line in the middle of the yin-yang symbol, it's blended. It's some of both. And when we take, our 2 feet, our 2 legs, and collapse them together onto a vertical beam and say you are one thing only, then look at, now I have to move over because somebody's talking while I'm trying to talk. When they are, see, you successfully derailed me for 10 seconds, man. That's the greatest accomplishment you're going to have in your life. Anyway, the idea is that the pinning of the feet to the cross represents two different things, and this is another theme in interpreting what Jesus says and what's in the Bible in general. The tree to life is guarded by a flaming sword that flashes back and forth every which way. That is the end of Genesis 3. That is how Genesis 3 ends. God puts cherubim on the east side of the Garden of Eden and to guard the way of the tree of life, and a flaming sword which flashes back and forth every which way. So you have this is kind of like a flaming sword flashing back and forth every which way, and those are the little cherubim guarding it. The idea being that things have multiple meanings and can often have opposite meanings. Like dialectical thinking is holding opposites in balance, and so you have in the yin yang you have the masculine and the feminine, the male and the female, the dark and the light, the receptive and the creative, the passive and the active, in balance. And so Jesus's feet being collapsed together on the vertical beam on one hand can mean you must choose, you are this or you are that. The same thing would happen with religions, with any kind of collectives. If you're in the group or you're out of the group, you are this specific religious faith and no other. You are, like the Good Samaritan was a Samaritan, and the other guy was a Jew, and so there was something separating in this line of social convention and all those other things which are unnatural. Doing that is unnatural. Jesus, when asked about divorce, uses it to make a point that the image of God is male and female, and that is. If you think about divorce, we internally divorce parts of ourselves. We're for boys, you grow up and you are receptive and you listen and you're curious and you're open, and then you're emotive. You express feelings, and then rules come in. Social convention comes in, which can feel natural because it's so pervasive and the groupthink is seemingly so commonly agreed upon, but it is unnatural to be that way, to become insensitive, to close down one's senses. I mean, it is like literally walking around, with your eyes closed and your ears closed. And I think you might see if you walk through the streets of Boston, you see a lot of people, a lot of women in particular, with like headphones on and blocking out the outside world. And the reason is that it's become an unpleasant place for them, and they're closing down their receptivity as a protective measure, which is understandable, and it actually is not a bad strategy in many cases, and it does help as a protective measure, but it's unnatural, and it reduces happiness, it reduces life, it changes things from just plain night or day and no sunset, no sunrise. And one of the main themes of what Taoism is about, and what Jesus was saying the Old Testament scriptures actually say, is that these are all unnatural things, these traditions and laws and ideas that accrete on top of nature. They're human standards that are misinformed and misguided. And the idea is to aspire to be a sunrise or a sunset. It's more pleasant for you, it's more pleasant for other people. Sunrise and sunset are beautiful times of day for people that appreciate beauty. And it is because it is a combination of the two. It is like a kiss between the day and the night. And that's a big theme. And so the crucifixion is embodying that, where you have this false choice, this either or. And the crown of thorns is all the choices that you have to make. Well, I'm a boy, so can I do this? Well, that's not my kid, so can I say this, or can I help out? Well, that's not my spouse. Can I say this, or can I do that? Well, this person's of a different religious faith, or this person's of a different ethnicity, or this person's of a blah blah, like all the rules we make about who can love who and all kinds of other shit, outside of consensual adult choices. Like, what the fuck are we doing, and why? It's unnatural. It's completely unnatural. And God created the heavens and the earth according to Genesis 1. That character is not defined. There's a big reveal towards the end in 1 John 4, verse 8 and I think 16. It said twice, God is love, God is love. So then you take what you could do, what we could have as a Bible that takes that retroactive defamiliarization. It's like you're reading it and you go, holy shit, that character, God, all along, that's love. You could say, in the beginning, love created the heavens and the earth. And what is love? It's attraction. And what did gravity do? Well, gravity is responsible for the formation of the planets and the galaxies and many other things. The universe is shaped the way it is because of gravity on the large level. And even the strong nuclear force is also, it's attraction. It binds things together. So if you think about love being synonymous with attraction, and attraction being synonymous with gravity, and love being synonymous with God, then anything that obstructs that current between people, an electromagnetic current, and it doesn't have to be sexual attraction. It could be just compassion, caring, pity, sympathy, empathy. Anything that obstructs that is the enemy. The parable of the weeds, which I cite over and over, seeds are planted and then an enemy comes along and plants weeds. So you have the good seeds planted, and they're intended, trees that come from seeds participate in an understory underneath the soil. We look at them and we think they're isolated, but we are learning more and more that the roots reach out and exchange information with one another. They signal danger, they signal when disease, other things. The trees affect one another. The soil the understory is a very active place, and so you have entities which are meant to be together. Those seeds that get planted in the parable of the weeds, they're not planted to just be isolated. They're planted to get underneath the soil, spread their roots, and connect. But then the enemy comes along and plants weeds that choke and strangle that natural way of doing things, and it's incorrect.